Yeah, this is a big deal. We heard last week the map was going to come out last week, but now I think we could say with some big measure of confidence that it's going to come out today. But here's what we've heard.
Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, we've got some news, a first look at Republicans' new map in Texas. Number two, a big day for Jay Powell and the Fed. And number three, Senate Republicans ponder changes to the rules of the institution after Dems slow walk nominations. All right, Jake, let's get into it. We have a very newsy Punchbowl News AM leading the top. Ali Mutnick just kind of crushing this redistricting story for us, out with a look at the proposed map by Republicans in Texas. This is really the first reveal in terms of how they're looking at changing districts, how they're going to try to push this through. There may be some changes, obviously, as it goes through the Texas legislature, but why don't you detail here for us a little bit all of what this preview looks like?
Yes. So Allie and I wrote this, although Allie did most of the work. I give
credit where credit's due, Jake.
I provided moral support. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, this is a big deal. So we heard last week the map was going to come out last week, but now I think we could say with some confidence, although not much, but some big measure of confidence that it's going to come out today, this new Texas map. And that's what we've been hearing. We've been hearing at some point in the first half of the day. I don't know if that's the first half of the day in Austin or the first half of the day in Washington, but here's what we've heard. They're going to try to get 5 seats, the Republicans. And here are the 5 Democrats who are most in the danger zone. Henry Cuellar in the Rio Grande Valley. That is, Cuellar's had the seat forever. He already represents a seat that Trump won by 7. It may not get a lot worse. Maybe it goes to a 10 or something like that, an R plus 10, or really a Trump plus 10. And that is a big pickup opportunity for Republicans. Vicente Gonzalez, also in the Rio Grande Valley, another seat that swung hard to the right in 2024, but they're going to try to put it out of reach for Gonzalez. Now we get into the interesting ones. I mean, if you were going to redistrict Texas, you were probably going to go do those 2 seats and make them a little bit more red anyway, because they were already redding. Julie Johnson in the Dallas Metroplex. This is a seat. Julie Johnson's new to Congress. This is a seat that they packed full of Democrats ahead of the 2022 cycle in the actual redistricting process. Now Republicans want it back. Most interesting to me is Greg Casar and Lloyd Doggett. Casar and Doggett represent Austin. Casar has this weird district that is basically takes in both sides of I-35 going between Austin and San Antonio in East Austin. And Doggett is the majority of the Austin area. Now, the question will be, Doggett is 78 years old, the dean of the Texas delegation, ran for the Senate in the 80s, I believe it was. Casar's 36. So will Casar primary Lloyd Doggett, the youngest chair of the CPC? Doggett is a Ways and Means member. I don't know that he'll go quietly, but that could be an interesting primary to watch. Mark Veazey, also in Dallas. Now, Veazey will have a seat to run in if he wanted to, most likely, but it might take away his Fort Worth home base, and that would be a problem for VC. One more thing to mention, there will be a new seat in the Houston metro area, but it looks like, according to our sources, that Lizzie Fletcher, Al Green, and Sylvia Garcia will all have seats to run in. Now, Fletcher represents West Houston, the West U, River Oaks area, and down into the some of the western suburbs, southwestern suburbs. I guess kind of southwestern suburbs, and that district could move. So that is the area of interest. Those seats are the areas of interest. They spared El Paso, which was a big question mark. But this, again, Anna, makes the point that Republicans are doing everything they can to pad what could be losses in the 2026 midterm.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, right? I mean, in terms of, I think they're making two big calculus changes. With one saying, hey, we're willing as Republicans to have some of these seats not be quite as red because we want to try to figure out ways to spread it and increase our numbers. But that could also boomerang against them, right? I mean, when you have districts that are tighter and are more competitive, competitive, all of a sudden you're potentially looking at seats flipping back and forth. Henry Cuellar is a good example of a Democrat who's run, as you say, in a redder district. I mean, often, kind of been perceived as the only Democrat who could potentially win
Yes.
that seat. We'll have to see how exactly this winds its way through. I think the other big thing, and you all note this, Republicans expect there will be more majority Hispanic districts in the new map proposal than there are in the current one. So that is a huge gamble for Republicans, saying that they believe that they're making a very big bet here, that the rightward shift to Latino voters seen in November with President Donald Trump is here to stay. And considering all of the things that are happening in politics, we will have to see, and certainly, Trump's kind of position as it comes to deportations and others, does that stick, or is there any kind of backlash? We won't know until the midterms.
Could I make one point keying off something that you said, which is we list the new PVIs, the partisan voting index for these seats. They are an R+7, Trump won by 16, R+3, Trump won by 10, R+8, Trump won by 18, 2 seats R4 that Trump won by 10. If you look a little bit deeper into those, an R+3 that Trump won by 10 is danger zone for Republicans. Not always. Republicans are likely to win by 3. But they're going to have to spend money in a seat like that in a depending where it is. And we don't know, we could not figure out which seats are which here, but this just shows kind of the shape of these districts. A district that Trump won by 10, we know empirically that Trump changes the political dynamics of most seats. So an R+3, a seat that Republicans win by generally by 3 points, is a seat Democrats are going to spend money in. I don't care what you say. It's going to be a seat, not you specifically, but I don't care what Republicans say. That's going to be a danger zone seat. So it's an R+4 that Trump won by 10. That's 2. So 3 of these 5 seats are going to be 3s and 4s on the PVI that Trump won by 10 points. Those are going to be competitive seats, Anna, and Republicans in Texas might have to learn how to run in those competitive seats.
Ooh, something to watch. All right, Dick, on to the number 2 story of the morning. Today is a monster day for U.S. economic politics. At 8:30 a.m., the Bureau of Economic Analysis, part of the Commerce Department, will release the quote-unquote advanced second quarter GDP estimate. The U.S. economy shrunk during the first quarter of 2025, but experts believe that new data will show growth of between 1.7% and 2.4% in the second quarter. All eyes will be on Jay Powell at 2 o'clock. The Federal Reserve Chair will announce whether the Fed intends to cut interest rates. Most people think he will not cut interest rates, but maybe foreshadow some cuts in the future. But there's been so much focus on Jay Powell and the Fed between, President Donald Trump, Republicans saying he's a partisan figure. Everybody's lost confidence in him. He should step down. I mean, to me, this is the most focus on the Fed that I can remember Congress kind of and a president in recent history really kind of going back and forth on here.
Unless you've been living under a rock, this is all Donald Trump talks about is cutting interest rates. He's not expected. Powell's not expected to,
Right.
as you note, to do that. I don't know. Does he fire him? I have no idea. I don't, I'll be honest with you. And the Punchbowl News editorial team makes fun of me for overusing this phrase, but I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze in firing Powell. The dude is gone next year. And there are just so many people who we quote in the story, Todd Young, John Kennedy, Republicans, not to mention Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, no fan of Jay Powell, but they don't want Trump to fire Powell. Not that Trump cares what Elizabeth Warren thinks, but, he is getting backed up from some people. And by the way, Roger Marshall, a Trump ally, says, I think there's a lot of downside to firing him. I just think a lot of people think the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Most people believe that they will not cut interest rates now, but signal a rate cut in September.
Right. Yep.
Is that enough to, Trump says Powell's always too late, where we have the interest rates are too high, blah, blah, blah. Is that enough to keep Trump at bay? I don't know. I mean, we heard Anna Paulina Luna, Republican of Florida, met with Trump a month or so ago, and then tweeted after the meeting, Trump is going to fire Powell. I have great sources, great information.
Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. But, listen, he did wave a letter firing Trump in front of these Republicans. So anyway, We'll have to see. It'll be an interesting day for the economy and two major economic indicators.
All right, let's go on to the number 3 story of the morning, right in Punchbowl News' wheelhouse. The headline reads, "The Senate's race to the bottom on noms." This might seem really in the weeds, but I actually think it's super important because what it is talking about is the idea of the norms of the Senate, of how the institution, which is really focused on rules and decorum, has kind of ground to a halt when it comes to nominations. Democrats are slow walking a lot of Trump's nominees in a historic manner, meaning they're not just saying, okay, yeah, some of these people at the lower levels, the non-controversials can get through. Democrats arguing, you know what, Trump's busting all norms. This is a time for, and one of the small areas when you're in the minority that you can affect and slow things down. And that's a small power that they have. But all of a sudden you could see, Republicans are huddling saying, hey, maybe it's time to change the rules.
So this is like another example of Democrats trying to just figure out their posture and fight against Trump. Because most of these nominees are just objectively non-controversial. I mean, you're talking about sub-cabinet positions that would have otherwise been confirmed by voice vote in many, many, many cases. Like yesterday, Sam Brown, former Senate candidate in Nevada, was confirmed. But Republicans had to file cloture on him. This is a sub-cabinet position. Now, Democrats would argue Trump has done things that, no other president has done, and it requires a new level of opposition of whatever. And I intellectually understand that argument, but it's forcing Republicans to think about things that they haven't thought about or haven't mulled, openly before. I don't know if they've never thought about it, but this is something that, you got to do. Thune says, he says on both sides, Dems and Republicans are saying this is a goofy process. We shouldn't have to do 1,100 of these and then all the judges on top of that. And I guess I hear that. I understand that argument. And
would be another place where Congress gives up its power, though, Jake,
agreed,
to the executive branch. I mean,
not necessarily giving up its power, but certainly taking its foot off, the gas a little bit. They're just saying to expedite this. They aren't saying in most cases, they aren't saying that these shouldn't be subject to confirmation, but they're saying instead of a longer post-cloture debate time, we'll shorten it.
Mm-hmm.
This is something to watch. It's something to watch because, Thune is having to take these big moves pre-recess to try to please the White House. Yeah, it is a change to the institution. I understand that. I agree with you.
All right, we will leave it there, watching it closely and let you know what happens in the meantime. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way to find out about us. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch us on video ahead of our weekly show that's launching in September. With that, also, you can go to punchbowl.news and go deeper on all these stories and more. There was a bunch more in the newsletter that we didn't get to this morning. I encourage you to do that as well. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.